right. It is, my clock is telling me 12 o'clock, which means it is time for us to start the webinar. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited today to be announcing the launch of our newly updated Fruitmaps website. And so today what we'll be doing is going through a little bit about what Fruitmaps is, what it can do, what it's capable of. And then I'm actually going to walk you through the website itself and show you the features and particularly how they pertain to the F750 and F751 produce quality meters. Before we get started though, I want to do a little bit of light housekeeping. So Susie Truitt, our distributor manager, is basically hosting the webinar today, and she will not hosting, she's moderating, and she's going to be on the chat and making sure that any kind of technical difficulties you're experiencing are addressed. She'll also be posting relevant links there. So if I mention at any point a link, then that's going to be posted in the chat since you won't be able to actually physically click it on my presentation. If you do have questions that pertain to the content of the webinar, then please make sure you put that in the Q&A function because that's what I'll be checking at the end of the webinar in order to answer and address all your questions. So please do not post questions that pertain to the webinar in the chat. Leave that only for technical difficulties or for looking for links that you can click on. As I mentioned, Susie's moderating, but my name is Galen George, and I am the Director of Applied Science at Felix Instruments. I've been with the company for about 5 years now, and my bachelor's degree is in biochemistry. My master's degree is in food science from Michigan State University. My background is mostly in quality and safety assessment in the food, agriculture, and cannabis industries. So we're going to start by kind of laying out the agenda for today. Like I mentioned, I'm going to give you some background on Fruitmaps, specifically what is a harvest management information system. Then we're going to go into the actual use case of this software, specifically, as I mentioned, with the F750 and the F751 produce quality meters, how that data is integrated with Fruitmaps and how it can be useful for all sorts of growers out there. At the end of this, I'll go through a live demo and I'll actually walk through all the different features of the new Fruitmaps platform. And then we'll open it up to questions and I'll answer those in real time. As I mentioned, all questions should be posted in that Q&A function. So starting off with harvest management information systems. So how are we utilizing data to inform decisions with this new software? So with Fruitmaps, what we're doing is we have essentially a three-component process, right? So we have a data acquisition system. Then we have that data going into a harvest forecast engine. And then after that harvest forecast engine, that data is then output into a management information system. So there's kind of it's a three-step process to utilizing this technology, this new software. So the data acquisition system, the actual acquiring of the data that's going to go into the decisions that you're making, there's a lot of different data inputs that this new system can handle. And we've actually partnered with Sensor Host and Freelance Robotics to allow for total integration of their technologies into this platform. So off the bat, we have dry matter data or any kind of internal quality attribute data. So, the F750 and F751 typically are measuring things like dry matter, bricks, titratable acidity in some cases, and other quality attributes. So from our devices itself, that data can be input into this software platform. And that data is one of the components that can go into this harvest forecast engine. We're going to focus on that today, but I'm about to mention the other couple of data inputs that you can use to help even further your robustness of your decision making. So we also have things like fruit size, fruit count, and flower count. Those can all be done manually using the Orion app from Freelance Robotics, or you can also use their machine vision platform, which is a non-manual way to get all that data really rapidly And then we also have the temperature data, which is where we integrated the sensor host sensors, which all do temperature data in the field. So all 5 of those data inputs going into then the harvest forecast engine, which is the kind of what's running in the background, the data analysis that's running in the background of the software platform. And so with the harvest forecast engine, we can look at things like peak flower date, the heat units, if you're using a heat unit based system for determining your harvest, dry matter targets, which is what we're going to focus on today, spatial distribution of your fruits within your trees and within your blocks. We have size forecasting, and then we have like weekly scheduling and understanding exactly where you need to have bins, how many bins you're going to need in order to do that harvest in the most successful way. And all of that gets output in the user interface of Fruitmaps in different ways. So we've got tables, we've got different map layers, we can compare maps, we can compare seasons, lots of different charts and graphs for you to look at to be able to inform yourselves whether or not it's time to harvest or whether or not you need to wait. We also have notification systems that you can use in order to help make sure that you're aware that peak harvest time is coming faster than you thought it was going to, or it might be delayed. So that's kind of the whole system in itself of Fruitmaps. We've kind of expanded from initially just being about the dry matter stuff to now expanding to a more holistic, robust approach to managing your harvest. Now, this on the right, this other graphic is just showing that how this data flow actually works. And so we were taking all these data inputs on the left and we're throwing them into that harvest forecast engine. So all this data on the left is stuff that the grower would collect using either manual methods or using the technology like from Freelance Robotics or Sensor Host, using the F750 and 751 to collect maturity spectra, which will give you the predictions right on the device for dry matter or bricks. All that data gets uploaded into the harvest forecast engine. And from there, it goes into all these different data analytics tools, right? So we've been looking at heat unit charts, heat maps on the actual map of where things are maturing the most, how many fruit you have in all your different trees and all of your different blocks, being able to do things like bin placement, estimating fruit load, and estimating harvest time. So it's a really kind of robust harvest management system that we've tried to build here. And like I mentioned, we want to focus specifically on the F750 and the F751 and how those are going to be used in conjunction with Fruitmaps. So if you are a historical user of Fruitmaps, in our first iteration of Fruitmaps, then you kind of understand the idea of being able to wirelessly upload data from your device directly to this fruit mapping software. Well, now it's the same exact function where you're essentially going out into the field, taking all that data with your F750 or your F751, your dry matter data, your bricks data, and that data being automatically imported into your specific farm, your specific block. Since everything is GPS tagged, then everything's going to have a very specific point on the map for that dry matter or that bricks or whatever the internal quality trait is. And so with that data, if you collect that data over time, what we can do is we can actually observe the rate of change of dry matter and we can forecast. So the goal of this entire thing is to be able to forecast when we want to harvest. And so for mangoes, for example, on this graph on the right, they have set a target threshold for dry matter of 17% dry matter. And so, as you can see, they collected data from early December for a week or so, and they were able to observe a dry matter increase from 14 to 16. From that, the actual Fruitmap system is able to forecast with that rate of change exactly what date is going to be the optimal harvest time. And so you can do this on a block level, which is the other nice thing, because not all blocks in your farm are going to be the exact same. So every block is going to have its own trending chart like this, where you can see and forecast exactly when your optimal harvest time is. For avocados, that threshold can be set to something like more like 21 or 21.5%. whatever it is that is required of you to hit for that target threshold of dry matter, you can set it to that level and then it'll forecast for you as you collect data over time. It'll forecast when that optimal harvest time is. So that's how we want to be using the instrument. That's the optimal way to be utilizing it to plan for your harvests and make sure that you're getting the most out of your orchards. So the actual meat and potatoes of this presentation, I need to go ahead and show you the actual software because it's live right now. It's available to be viewed. And I want to take you through everything from the landing page all the way through all the settings. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share really quick, and then I'm going to reshare my screen. And here you should see the landing page for fruitmaps.com. So the URL hasn't changed. It's the same URL as it was in the past. And here is the new and improved landing page. So as you can see, it is now Orion Fruit Maps. Orion is the platform that is utilized by Freelance Robotics in order to do all their flower and fruit counting, both the machine vision and the manual stuff. So we went with the name Orion Fruit Maps to reflect that. The landing page has all the information you could possibly need as far as what this platform does. Everything that I kind of just reviewed for you should be on this landing page already here for you. All that information. We've got an introductory video if you want to watch that. You can also book a free consultation to discuss whether or not this solution is right for you or how you can implement this with your organization. You can also click here for an overview, or you can simply start to register by clicking this Get Started button. This will take you to a landing page where you can input all of your information, and we'll get in touch with you to get your account set up and everything. So I'm going to switch over to a logged in version of this. Actually, if I escape out of this, then you should be seeing a version of Fruit Maps when you immediately log in. This is what it might look like for you. I'm using a demo account that has data in it already, so yours may or may not have data when you first open it. But this is the kind of home page for Fruit Maps. It's going to be on this satellite imagery map. And there's a lot of different components here. So I'm going to walk through just this home page first and tell you what everything is. So first, we have this top toolbar here. Anytime that you change a parameter or try to load new data or new seasons or anything like that, you'll see a green loading bar going across the screen. So that green loading bar is indicating that that new parameter is being loaded in, all that new data is being loaded in. And so that's how you can see the progress of how that's doing. This next toolbar on the top here is going to be where you can select the farm that you are looking at. For a lot of you, it may only be one farm, so you might not see any other options in your drop-down menu. But if you have multiple farms, you can select your multiple different farms from this drop-down. From the crops section here, you can actually go through and select any kind of different crops. If you happen to have one farm that has multiple different commodities like mango and avocado or something like that, then you would be able to see all those different crops here. This is a mango farm, obviously, or mango orchard, so you can see that there's a bunch of different varieties of mango in here. And then in the season section, that's where you'll be able to select what season you want to look at as far as what data you want to actually visualize here on the map. So you can choose what season you're in. And then over here, we have the from and the to date. These can actually help you see historical data or newer data. So right now I have it set to the 2020 season because that's the data I want to be able to show you guys to help visualize what all of these different features are. But you can change this to and from date to help you visualize different seasons. And if you set it to a really wide range, then if you come down here, this scrolling bar will actually show you the different dates that data was collected. And you can actually change the range of data and it'll change how many data points are visualized. So like right now, I just changed it down so there's only 2 data points or 2 days of data collection that have occurred. You can see that only some of the data here is populated. But if I scroll all the way over, then that gives me all of the information that I need. So that being said, that's the top toolbar. On the right here are the layers of the map. So the block is the actual outlines here of each block within the orchard. They're all named. So there's HG1, HG2, HG3. These are all parameters that I'll show you in a little bit how to set those on your farm, but these are all boundaries that are set, polygon boundaries, in order to allow you to manage your orchard in a more effective way. So if you uncheck this, then I won't see those blocks anymore. So I'm going to leave that checked. The next layer that's down here is the sensors. And so you might see over here on the top of the screen, I'm going to zoom in on it. You can see one here, keep 2325. And then if I move back down, you'll see another one over here, HG12324. So these sensors are temperature sensors. And there's another one at the very top of this map as well, HG5. So those are the sensor host temperature sensors that are linked to various numbers of blocks. And that's what's receiving all that temperature information and feeding it into the harvest forecast engine. Now you might be wondering, okay, so it's in the corner of these blocks. I don't really know what temperature it's collecting for. Well, if you collect this sensor block linkage button, you'll see these blue arrows going out from the temperature sensors, and that's telling you which blocks that this sensor is collecting data for. So you can actually visualize and see, okay, I know this temperature sensor is collecting data for HG5, top K, and home R2E2. So those are the sensor block linkages that you can visualize. And if you uncheck that, then those blue lines go away. This fruit layer, this is going to be determined based on which of these different components you are selecting at the bottom to visualize. Right now, we're on the internal quality, which is the F750, F751 data for dry matter. And so with the fruit layer here on the right side, we can actually see that there's a chart of different levels of dry matter, and different levels of dry matter give you different colors. And so that's how we can visualize when things are starting to get to our threshold, which is 17. So anything greater than 17 that's ready to be harvested is red. Anything that's less than that is going to have a varying degree of color. And so if I put this back like I did originally, and we can see here that earlier on in their data collection in this 2020 season, that only a few of the mangoes that they measured were actually ready to be harvested, and the rest were almost getting there. Some were in the 14 to 15, some are in the 15 to 16, 16 to 17. So they're starting to get close, but not quite ready. But as they progressed in data collection, if I scroll all the way, everything's red, everything's ready to be harvested at that point. So that's how you can visualize on a specific block exactly when things are ready, or even looking at things like distribution of where in your specific block are things starting to mature faster than other fruit. Or are there certain blocks that are performing better than others, that are maturing faster or slower than others? So this is a great visualization tool. Now, going back down to this bottom bar, I mentioned that we're in the internal quality section right now, which is all of the dry matter data. If you click any of these other parameters down here, like flower count, or fruit size, it'll just change the visualization of this data. So it no longer will be dry matter data, it'll be fruit size data, or it'll be fruit count data, or flower count data. So all these are essentially different parameters, different data inputs that are going to be able to be visualized on the map, just like we are visualizing this dry matter content. On the left side here is where all the different functionalities come in. And I'm going to start actually with the bottom, just to show you guys the really helpful feature here. If you are just getting started with Fruitmaps, or even if you're an experienced user and you are a little unfamiliar with the new platform, this help button is going to take you directly to a user manual. So if I open this, we're going right to a user manual that has everything linked, all the different steps that you could possibly need, user interfaces, how to create your farm, how to manage your data and visualize your data. So all that information is available right from the website just by clicking this help link. If we go to settings, this is where if you are a owner of a farm, or if you are, I guess, an admin like me, you can invite different types of roles to also join in helping manage your Fruitmaps platform. So the way that we have this structured is it's kind of a hierarchical system. So we have a top person who's an owner, and that owner of the farm is able to then send invites to managers or consultants or marketers. We have these three different roles laid out. Each role has limitations to what they can or can't do. Managers are able to do pretty much everything an owner can, essentially, besides invite people. The manager is able to upload data, pull reports, manipulate data, do all sorts of things. And so and change the farms, add new blocks, things like that. So the manager level is someone that the owner would want to invite, who is a upper level person that kind of manages more than just a single orchard. It might have multiple orchards or something like that. Consultant role is someone that should have access to the farm to be able to upload data, but doesn't really have much more access than being able to upload data and pull reports. And then the marketers are only able to see the final data that's exported, the actual analyzed data from the forecast engine. They just get the final data reports out of that. And so, this being an invite only system, how it needs to work is that if you want to utilize this system, you need to have your farm owner sign up and then have them invite the other people that are going to be actively using the Fruitmaps within their organization. So, every organization will have an owner and then various other people in these other roles. So, that's this section of the settings where you can invite people. The farm section is actually where you'll go to set up a farm, to change and add sensor locations, to create your blocks within your farm, to set up what kind of crops you're going to be actually measuring in your fields, the varieties of those crops, and then also things like you can do things like upload specific images of trees and fruit to help with the fruit sizing and determining number of fruit per trees and things like that. Down in the configuration section, we have two really big important ones here are the harvest load parameters and the dry matter parameters. So if you're doing the other inputs, things like fruit size, fruit count, flower count, this harvest load parameters section, if we go into here, we can actually change things like the unit weight of the fruit, the harvest capacity, the harvest tolerance, the field bin size, and that all will go into the calculations for your harvest forecast. And so that all is important data that you'll need to input if you're utilizing those features. Now, if you're just using the dry matter, like what we're talking about today, then here's where you would input that dry matter target, and you can set things like dry matter increase. You can also do things like block to estimate rate of dry matter increase from. So you can actually, instead of dictating what your dry matter increase is going to be, you can estimate that based on a specific block that you've already been measuring. Use that as your kind of template block. And so that's where you would input all of these values in order to get that harvest forecast that we were showing you to reach that target dry matter. So as I mentioned, this is where you would set up your farms and stuff. I just wanted to really quickly show you the blocks section of this. So if you go into blocks, you can actually view all of your different blocks that you currently have. You can change the number of blocks that you're viewing. So if we wanted to view all 15, then we just change that records per page value. And now we can actually see a table here of all of our different blocks, our sensors, the numbers of the sensor, the area of the actual block, the number of rows, trees, all this stuff is stuff that you would input into the system when you go to create a new block. So if I were to add a block here, what's going to happen is you'll see that we have to name it. We have to add our crop. We're going to actually go ahead and we can dictate the coordinates of the block itself. And we either can do that by uploading, so we can actually read a polygon from a CSV. So if you actually input coordinates from a CSV, you can do that. Or if you have like really precise exact GPS coordinates, that's what you would want to do. Or you can simply draw a polygon. So if I drew a polygon, it would look something like this. I'm clicking buttons, I'm doing one click of the mouse, and I'm creating a polygon, right? So now I have a new block right here that's just a random patch of forest, but that's how you would go about drawing new blocks if you don't have any kind of coordinates that you can manually upload here. So we're going to go ahead and cancel out of that because we're not actually adding a new block, but that's how you would go about doing that. And then the farm is kind of the same exact process without having to add your blocks first. It's just defining all the parameters of your farm ahead of time so that it's much easier for the harvest forecast engine to do that data analysis. So from here, we have a couple other options. Not all of these options are going to be visible and available depending on your role. So the ones that I'm going to focus on are things like manage. So manage in this section is where you can upload data. So you can actually manually upload data instead of if you were doing manual fruit count or fruit sizing or flower counts, you can upload that. Also, say you don't have internet access and you can't wirelessly upload your data from your F750 or your F751, then what you would do here is you would just go to back to your computer at the end of the day, and you would upload your dry matter in CSV or text file format. And that would allow for the actual harvest forecast engine to go ahead and take that data and put it into the map, visualize it, and put it into your charts and all of your forecasting analysis. So there's always that backup option if internet access is a issue for you. The next thing I'd like to look at here is the charts section. And I got to go ahead and change my range back because I went to a couple different menus here. But if I change my range to the range we were looking at earlier, the 2020 season, then what we should see is some data for a specific block. So if I choose HG1 from this drop-down list, we'll be able to see all sorts of different graphs. So in this particular farm, what they were doing was collecting all of the data that I've mentioned. So they have everything from the temperature, from the flower count, fruit counts, all of that stuff. So we can see here the temperature time course. We can see the heat units chart. So they're looking at their actual heat units and when they're going to be able to reach that target heat unit value. We have the distribution of fruits by fruit size, the fruit size time course, so we can actually see how the fruit size has changed over time. We have the distribution of flowers per tree, the time course of the flowering, the distribution of fruits per tree. So that's critical information to input when you're setting up your farms and your blocks is the number of trees. So you can actually see this distribution of fruits per tree chart. And then at the end here is what we're interested in is this actual distribution of dry matter. And so what we can see is that we've got, a few fruits that are a little bit, in the immature range, 12 to 15 range. 15 to 16, there's 12 fruit that are starting to get close to maturity. 16 to 17, they're just about at maturity, 5 of those fruit. And then 41 fruit that are over that maturity threshold. And we can actually see here in this chart at the bottom left, this is our forecasting. And so this is the red line here is our target dry matter of 17. And it's telling us exactly when that optimal harvest time is going to be reached. So December 18th of 2020 is when that 17% threshold was going to be reached for this specific block. Remember, we're in a block level. So in block HG1, on December 18th, that's when harvest can be, begun. And so this forecasting engine is going to help you with determining that exact specific date, and it'll change depending on the block that you are measuring. So really useful information, lots of good data here. All of these graphs can be exported. Everything can be exported. You can also download the actual image if you want to use it in like a presentation that you have to give to stakeholders or something. You can view it in full screen to get a bigger image. But yeah, so that's exactly how we would go about looking at all this data that's been analyzed and put into chart form. If we go moving up this bar on the left here, we have the harvest load calculation. So this is if you're doing the flower count, the fruit count, all that stuff. You would go into this menu. We have a dashboard view here. So in the dashboard view, it's really just showing the yield by week, and it's just a really quick overview of the changes of yield over time. The block summary table is going to show you, and as you can see, this bar is loading, the green bar, as I mentioned before. But in the block summary table, it's just going to give you an idea of all the most basic details of that block. So the area, the fruit count, the yield, and then the number of bins for those different blocks. And then with the map feature, we have two other kinds of visualizations that are map based. You'll see this swipe and compare. So the swipe map is actually going to allow for you to see two different kind of time ranges, and you'll be able to actually swipe this over and see changes over time using this kind of swipe feature over different seasons, whether it be seasons or different parameters. You can swipe to see different parameters. And so you can actually see, like, we could visualize something like dry matter data and then go and look at flowering. So I'm going to go reset this again to the 2020. And we should get some visualization here in 1 second. If I change this to 2021. Then we should get some visualization. But regardless, there is the ability to essentially change between parameters and view the basically the flowering versus the fruit count versus the dry matter content. So that's a useful feature. We've got the compare feature, which is just going to show basically side by side. You can look at two different time zones. So we can say the 2020, let's see here, 827 to 9 over here. Look at the a time that's later, 920 or 909 to 916 over here. So you can look at two different times at two different time periods at the exact same time, and that is another useful map visualization. But really, the most important one is the actual just homepage map where we're visualizing internal quality data. And that's essentially going to be the most useful aspect of this chart. So that is the rundown of Fruitmaps, and there is obviously a lot more in depth you can get into it. But if you have an interest in this software, then we really highly recommend you reaching out so we can actually get in touch with you and walk you through, give you a nice, more thorough walkthrough, and actually potentially set up a demo account for you or something like that. So now I'm going to switch back over to my presentation. Just to say, that was our first look at our brand new Fruitmaps software. We're really excited about it. Everything's looking really great. We're really excited to see some more use of the software platform, especially in other industries besides mango. If you have specific application questions, if you have a certain crop that you're working with that you aren't sure is appropriate for this, or if you have some kind of questions regarding the freelance robotics, fruit count, flower count software, the Orion software, or for the sensor host temperature sensors, Susie will post links in the chat to their websites. But if you have any interest in utilizing the dry matter instrumentation, the F750 and the F751 for the Fruitmaps integration, then please reach out to us. You can click this tiny URL, which Susie will also post in the chat. That tiny URL will lead you to a landing page to be able to get more information about our produce quality meters for a non-destructive and rapid assessment of internal quality traits like dry matter, Brix, and titratable acidity. It's integrated fully with Fruitmaps, so all it takes is 2 clicks of a button to wirelessly upload data directly from a device into the Fruitmaps software, completely integrated, so very user-friendly no sort of extra steps really involved at all. So all that data can be just streamlined right to your platform, right to your farms and your orchards and your blocks. So we're really excited about this. If you want to contact us, please go to our website. You can sign up for newsletters. We have a lot of great content in our newsletters, all sorts of new research that's being published. We're highlighting all of that. We're highlighting news in the industry. We're highlighting news with our own product development. You can also go to our LinkedIn page. That's where we post a lot of our newsletters as well. And then our YouTube page is full of great tutorials and other webinars that we've done in the past. So if you want to learn more about our F751 or F750 quality meters, feel free to check out our YouTube channel for that. And then also, you can always just email us directly or give us a call, and we're happy to talk or chat about your applications or your interests. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Q&A section of this. So the next question is, or the first question is, the F750 and the F751 may also be used to determine the optimum temperature and optimum pH. So as far as what spectroscopy, like spectroscopy-based devices are capable of, you can certainly measure pH with the F750 and the F751. Temperature, you could also technically measure temperature with that, but we would have to build separate models. Most of our models that we build don't include those as units of measure within the model itself. So you'd have to build your own models for those, but it certainly is technically capable of doing both of those things. We have modeled pH very successfully in the past with things like berries and other commodities. The next question is there any facility to store data of individuals' farms, years-wise, or any other identity to save the data? So the Fruitmaps software is going to save all your historical data. You're going to be able to view all of your data from previous years, previous seasons. All of that will be stored in our server. So our Amazon Web Server-based server is going to store all that data. So you'll be able to actually see performance year over year. That's one of the big benefits of having a harvest management information system like this, is being able to change your practices or see how different changes in agronomic practices are affecting your final bottom line, your output. And so that's something that's going to be an invaluable tool and big aspect of this software. So yeah, well, all that data is stored by the platform itself. The next question is the data transferable to another device? As far as if you're wondering about data from a F750, so the F750, the data isn't really useful to be transferred to another F750 device. If you're referring to data from the Fruitmaps platform being transferred to another device, I'm not sure if I can answer that either. I know that you can view the Fruitmaps website on pretty much any platform, but I'm not really, I guess, 100% clear on your question. So I might have you just reach out to me directly and expand on that further, because I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there. Our next question is, does the device require specific software to store, open, and process the data? No. So still kind of unclear what you mean by the device. I'm guessing you're talking about the 750 or the F751, but if you're not, then please reach out to me so I can answer these questions a little bit more specifically once I get some more clarification. But if you're asking if the F751 requires specific software to store, open, and process the data, then technically it does, but all that software is on the device. It's included with the device itself. So being able to take measurements in the field, get immediate response of what the dry matter, Brix, pH, titratable acidity, whatever they are, and within a few seconds, and then having that data being stored on the device and able to be sent wirelessly to Fruitmaps. That's all part of how the device operates. So it's included with that device. But if you're referring to Fruitmaps, then Fruitmaps is an open web platform. So you can view it on any other device that is able to open a web browser. It's just a web browser based device or app. The next question is, what is the process of entering data from instruments that aren't already integrated? So that's a great question. So in the past, how it worked is that you had to register a device, in order to have that data be uploaded to fruitmaps.com. That is no longer the case. So the current platform, as I mentioned, is a hierarchical system. So we actually have an owner that has to invite people to the Fruitmaps software. So once you have an owner, they can invite people, but there's no ability to just register an account without having an invitation at this point. So that is how we are removing the ability or the necessity of having to register devices, because now that only certain people are going to have access to their farms on Fruitmaps, any device that is taking data within GPS coordinates that are within a block. So if you took a measurement and it's within a block in a farm, that data is going to be uploaded to that block. And so no matter whether or not it's registered or not. So all instruments are already compatible and integrated with Fruitmaps as it exists right now, the new version of it. So there's no more need for that, which is a really useful, I think, feature that we built in. So we're still protecting data integrity, but we're not having to put people through jumping through the hoops of always having to make sure that their devices are, I guess, registered with our system. So now, any device that's within the boundaries of a block within an orchard, when that data gets acquired, if those GPS coordinates are within that block boundary, and you upload it to Fruitmaps, then it's going to go right to that block boundary. It's going to associate exactly with that point where it was acquired with the device. The next question is just a comment from Felix Moser. Thanks, Scalen. Great software. Looking forward to using it again next year. Felix, we're always happy to have you using the software, and we're looking forward to using it more as well in the future. And then the next question is, will it be useful in India? I think this is useful all around the world, and especially if you're doing mangoes in India. This is already a system that was built and developed thanks to our partners at Central Queensland University with a big focus on mango. And so we've got a lot of features already built in for mangoes specifically. So if you are using this in India, even if you aren't using mangoes, then it's still going to be a very useful platform. Anyone that is trying to I guess, do more data informed decision making, manage their orchards, manage their farms in a more data driven way, then this is going to be a very useful platform for them. So yes, I do think it would be very useful in India. And that's all of our questions. So if you do have more questions, then please make sure that you reach out to us directly. You can email us, like I mentioned, you can call us. If you have specific application questions, I'm more than happy to answer those for you and make sure that you are utilizing this in a way that's going to benefit you and your organization. So yeah, thank you very much, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Galen, there's
Yep.
oh, there's one more. It was more of a comment on in the question that just popped up in the question.
Oh, okay. I'll open it up really quick. The next question is see some real potential in bananas and pineapple. Okay. Well, yeah. So if you see a lot of potential in a commodity that maybe is not utilizing something like harvest management information systems very regularly, then I really highly encourage you to reach out to us. We can set you up or the owner of your farm, or if you know people that could benefit from this, please send them our way, and we're happy to set up consultations with them so that we can walk them through exactly how this might benefit them, and especially if it's in a commodity that's not typically using these kind of data-driven decisions, then that would be really awesome to see. So yeah, thank you, Gerardo, for that comment. All right. And thank you everyone again for joining. And I hope you learned a lot. And we're excited for more people to be utilizing these kinds of systems and data-driven insights in the future. So please reach out. Like I said, if you have questions about utilizing Fruitmaps or you would like to start using it, then just reach right out to us and we're happy to help. Have a great day, everyone.